What's going on? Ben the Bane Davis here. The Ultimate Fighter 31, Team McGregor and Team Chandler. First episode's in the can. Here's some initial thoughts and takeaways. I want to kick it off by kind of mentioning how much I do enjoy that this is purely prospects versus vets on all sides. Michael Chandler getting both the 155-pound and 135-pound veterans, while Conor McGregor does have the prospects. This is where that kind of hurts one team, though, in one regard, which is McGregor. He's busy. This guy is absent from the weigh-ins. He is having him spar day one, right? I don't understand the methodology behind his training. His staff themselves consisting of, obviously, John Kavanaugh, Owen Roddy, some of the guys that have been with him for a very long time throughout his entire career. It's all well and good, but again, when I compare it to Michael Chandler's assistant coaching team with Bellator heavyweight champion, former light heavyweight champion as well, Ryan Bader. You look at the BJJ practitioner, Drysdale, I forget, but it seems like a bit more of actual credibility on Chandler's side and taking more of a constructive approach, right? Drilling day one just to see where everybody's ability is at. I thought that was just a bit more effective at getting a lay of the land than sparring, especially with how McGregor is sparring with the guys, and I don't want to pretend to know how long he's spending sparring each person or whatever, but I mean, he's not really observing everybody if he's just sparring with one guy here and there. Who knows how much Conor McGregor is factoring in his own individual schedule and instead of factoring in these guys' ability to win the show and being a coach versus being Conor McGregor, focused on Conor McGregor. That's kind of the battle that I think we're going to see, especially if his attendance at certain events or filming sessions, training sessions, whatever. I mean, if he's not there half the season, that's really going to hurt the prospects who, again, need a very fine-tuned instructor and coach who is supervising them and taking a bit more of a hands-on approach.
Now, to kind of piggyback off of what Ben was saying, yes, right, Conor McGregor is a busy person. However, most of these people need to come to the show prepared, right? So regardless of who's coaching them, how much time they're spending, they're not really going to learn too much in that short span of time that they're there. We got to remember, it is only 6 weeks of filming. The first week is actually just getting medicals done, right? And getting the final castmates selected. Second week, they go right into training, and it's literally the first fights. So they don't really have a lot of time to get situated with their new coach and their style of doing things, right? So regardless, though I agree, it doesn't really matter how invested or involved Conor is. If I was a fighter, that would suck, though. I'd want him there, right? I want him at my weigh-ins. I want him at my fights. I want to learn from him. But let's be honest, they're already going to get the rub, the social media rub. They're going to get massive following. They have one of the most popular fighters in the game as their head coach, so I'm sure we'll see some positives. Now, in terms of the team selection and how that all went down, at first I thought it was a little bit dumb. It just didn't make a lot of sense. I was covering The Ultimate Fighter 31 prior to the first episode while they were filming, and I already knew it was going to be prospects versus veterans. Now, it is a little odd because in MMA, a prospect can be over 30 years old. They could have a record like 16-6. In this particular case, the prospects have never fought in the UFC and the veterans have. It's pretty simple as that. I did like how the rankings determine the matchups because normally coaches select, and in this case, right, where Lee Hammond is under Conor, that's his protege. He's been training with him forever since he was an amateur into his pros. There could be some favoritism there. In this case, it didn't really allow for that. But I did think it was interesting that Michael Chandler kind of finessed the whole situation. He didn't really rank his people appropriately because of that, knowing that one was going to fight 4, number 2 was going to fight number 3, and so on. For me personally, I've been waiting for a themed tough for way too long now. I mean, if we're being honest, the ratings haven't been as they used to. They need to start making things creative. It just doesn't seem like they're evolving much. This franchise needs something, and the fact that they had a theme show this go around, I think will somewhat help that. And obviously it doesn't hurt that McGregor's on the show. I love both of the coaching staff. I think Michael Chandler is going to be an incredible coach. I think he's going to come off as the hero of the season. Conor, not going to lie, he looked a little bit hungover in that first episode when he came in for the introductions. Nonetheless, both men have amazing coaching staff, and I think, they're going to be the key or the glue that holds this season together.
Let's see, what were some of my other notes? Brad Katona being on Connor's side, but then winding up on Chandler's team. Thought it was funny, and I think, this guy's the Ultimate Fighter winner. He's been here. He's done this before, and I think with the result, Roosevelt Roberts just walking through Nate Jennerman in 9 seconds, we're going to see a bit more of that, I imagine, this season, because the veterans have been there. They've done that, and I think they recognize, like it was brought up in the show, if they are not successful in this season of The Ultimate Fighter, they will never make it back to the UFC, probably, in my opinion. So this is their last chance, and I don't think that the prospects maybe recognize the gravity of the opportunity. I think that they're still just at a point in their careers where, this is a little bit of a starstruck type situation, especially when you have a guy like Conor McGregor coaching you. That's a lot of distraction to where you might lose track of what's actually important, which is the fighting, the training, instead of celebrating the fact that I get to have dinner with Conor McGregor, or celebrating the fact that I'm on The Ultimate Fighter, I'm in the house, let's have fun, and let's cut loose. I think the prospects might lean into that side a little bit more.
I have to agree just a bit, especially with the fact that we'll probably see a lot of those, quick KOs. Prior to this episode dropping, I ended up releasing a video on this channel, kind of, alluding to the fact that they really didn't use a lot of 155er clips for the build-up. They used a lot of the bantamweights. After seeing this first fight, I could see why. There's only 9 seconds that they could have used, and it would have already spoiled the result, right? So I imagine we'll probably see that. I have a feeling we're going to see very few prospects win, not only because the veterans are hungry, but like Ben said, right? They've been there, they've done that. They're experienced. And sometimes that's just the little edge that you need to come out on top. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed that the first fight ended in 9 seconds. All of that build and all of the commercials, right? Like, for it to end like that. I mean, hats off to Roosevelt Roberts. The dude deserves it. Great performance. But the KO was a bit lackluster in that sense. It wasn't jaw-dropping or out of your seat. So, I just have a feeling we're going to see more funny moments than we are going to see drama on the show. And, that's just kind of the new trend that they're heading with The Ultimate Fighter, which kind of sucks for some of the OG tough fans, right? Because that's what the casuals come and tune in for. But surprisingly, the UFC wants less drama and they want to focus more on MMA as a sport.
Kurt Hollabaugh, in one of the earlier interviews, said that he researched mostly everybody and he read up on all the potential opponents. And then when he was matched up with his opponent, he said he didn't know much about him. I thought that was funny. I'm like, Kurt, you just contradicted yourself, buddy. The other thing that I wanted to note was more of a production distribution side of things with ESPN and their just propensity to push the advertising. There were a lot of ad breaks. And as much as I love the Burger King Whopper commercial, which I saw 2 or 3 different times throughout the first episode, I got a little burnt out. The pacing's not the greatest. And especially when you've got one fight and it ends in 8 seconds, you're asking a lot for another 70 minutes of runtime. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I have not really watched The Ultimate Fighter all too closely. I've watched a couple episodes here and there, never a full season, because I always get burnt out and I get bored. It's a repetitive show, and I'm kind of a little sad that we're not getting 2 fights an episode as opposed to just the one. I think that helped the pacing a lot more. I think that'd be a lot more moments from each episode if you did a 155-pound and a 135-pound fight per episode, because then it'd be a shorter season. I think you'd just be able to really pack in more of the quality over the quantity in the minutes and things like that. But that's more of a personal point.
I'm not gonna lie though, the advertisements work. I ended up fucking ordering BK right after, so. But no, I agree. The pacing is a little bit off, and even in the past seasons when it was solely on ESPN Plus, they still had advertisements. It makes no sense to me. Love the idea of having 2 fights per episode, though. They need to make that change ASAP.
Now, obviously, Roosevelt Roberts getting that win. In one of his on-camera interviews, he talked about how he was selling drugs at one point in time. Thought it was kind of funny just to include that in his life, where he was talking about how, I need to I was doing crazy stuff, fighting, selling drugs. I'm like, why would you mention your past life as a drug dealer? And whatever. People can look at it as doing things for the family, all well and good. Thought it was simply comical. And again, to change the gears back to his fight, he's had 8 UFC fights. 1-0 in Bellator, 1-0 in Dana White's Contender Series. All in all, when you think about his performance in major promotions, he's 6-3-1. That's a lot of experience at a high level, and he displayed it beautifully with an 8-second knockout. So I think, again, to kind of reiterate my thoughts, these veterans are going to have some really good performances, and I think they're going to show the levels that they're at, whereas the prospects, with their more absent coach, might struggle to find their footing, and the best prospects will shine even brighter, and then the more average guys who could have been benefiting from a more hands-on coach and a bit more of a grounded environment, I think they're going to really suffer from just the nature of this season. These veterans are not pushovers. Again, you look at the records, it's guys who maybe lost back-to-back or, had a losing record overall in their UFC tenure. That doesn't mean that they're bad. In fact, it means that they're really solid. Guys like Brad Katona, who are, I think, like 12-2 is what he is, an Ultimate Fighter winner. That's a tough opponent when you're coming up in the game and get this opportunity in the Ultimate Fighter. Like, this is the worst roster to go up against for the prospects, in my opinion, out of any Ultimate Fighter season, simply because these people have so much more experience, and with a really good coach in Michael Chandler. I'm not anticipating a lot of success for the prospects, and I guess that's a potential of what we might be seeing. That's it. I wish the pacing was better. I wish there were less commercials, and I think that Michael Chandler's team is going to have a lot more success. Love it. Fully prospect versus veterans, and we'll see. I thought it was funny that Ryan Bader was there. That's it.
We'll definitely see how this season goes. You're going to have to tune in every single week here on The Scrap after each single episode. The Bane and I, we're going to be recapping the good, the bad, the ugly, the boring, the bullshit, and everything in between. But anyways, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and set up those post notifications so you can get notified anytime we drop a new live episode or fighter interview. Until next time, guys. Peace.